let's talk about healing, hope, and the possibility of afterlife. As we all will go through some kind of loss at one point in our life, and we will need help to get through it, even if you don't think you do. We're here to help you find your light at the end of the tunnel.
Whether it's a dream, a visit, a vision, or a newfound life after loss, we believe life and love never dies. This is Surviving Death and Dying
with Trisha
and Misty.
This is a special episode as we are going to talk to a good friend of mine, Cameron, who lost his mom to a very serious issue that a lot of people are dealing with on a daily basis, and that is substance abuse. I want to thank you for sharing your story with us today, and I hope this helps you work through your loss as well as our listeners. Let's welcome Cameron to our show.
Hi, Cameron.
Hi.
Welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
It's nice to meet one of Trisha's fellow dancer friends.
Yes.
I'm curious because I know Trisha knows more of your background and your story, but can you start out by telling us a little bit about yourself? And I know that what we're going to talk about is your mom and her substance abuse. So maybe what that was like growing up.
Yeah. So I am a dancer and choreographer. That's how I know Trish. And actually my mentor was her roommate at the time. Yeah, I moved to LA back in 2008. I'm originally from Seattle. My mom actually was a choreographer, so that's how I got into dance in the first place.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, she was a studio owner and all of that, It's a different type of grief just because she gave me the gift that I use in my everyday life. That's made me the creator I am today,
Right. So you have a lot of the good and the bad. You've got a lot of inspiration from her, but you also had a challenge. Were you aware of her having a substance abuse problem when you were young, or when did that become apparent to you?
Well, so that's the thing, because I have a brother and he's 7 years younger than me. So we're both grieving, but we have like such different stories, because for me, I got a little bit more of the first side of her, when I was her first child, and we have different dads. So, I got to spend a lot more time with her when she was in the prime of having her studio and before things went south, so like half of my life was that side of her. And then the other half of my life was more of the substance abuse and dealing with coping and dealing with that kind of stuff that she was sick and having to deal with. As we're with my brother, he was too young to know that side of her,
Right.
So he only got more of the other side,
And when did your mom pass exactly?
She passed away on November 30th last year in 2020.
So just over a year now.
Yeah, she didn't really use when I was really little. I think she started using more around like 2000. Like around the year 2000. So I was like 12, 13 at that time. So still young, but I was old enough where I have memories prior to that. You know what I mean?
Right. So did you notice her having that substance abuse while you were young, or was it like after? Did she still have the studio when she was using?
No, she closed her studio in 1997.
Okay.
And then she was teaching like at other studios for like a year after that. But I think what happened was, she wasn't happy in her marriage and she was drinking a lot. I think it started with drinking because, not having the studio anymore, that was her whole identity and that was her life. So not having her studio anymore, I think she just fell into a depression. And she also, because of pain she was having with dance, she was already using like narcotics, like for pain.
Right.
And I think that that's really what started it, was her addiction to pain meds. And then it increased into bigger, more harmful substances over time.
So did she stop dancing and stop working a certain number of years prior to her passing in 2020? Is there, can you define a little window of the biggest decline?
Yeah. What happened was so she had her studio pretty much from when I was born until 1997. That gap from like 97 until like 2000, I think she was just going through life. She was more of a stay-at-home mom, which was the first time she'd ever had to do that. And then by like 2000, I think she was starting to use, but it wasn't becoming a huge issue until like 2003, which is when I moved in with my dad. So she pretty much, like she was getting eviction notices. She wasn't paying the rent. She was in the middle of a divorce. It was starting to affect, her personality, her mood swings, and her depression overall. And I think once she realized she wasn't in a position to be taking care of my brother and I, that's when she had Eric, my brother, go move with his dad. And then I moved with my dad. I was about 14 at the time. So I was a teenager and my brother was 7. And then she got clean. Well, no. Okay. So this is what happened. Actually, it's funny we're talking about this because I was just venting to my dad about it because we don't really go deep into talking about my mom for some reason, but we did for once finally.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was like on his way taking me to the airport, leaving.
Yeah, on the end.
Yeah, like let's use the last few seconds to actually connect.
And that way you could have a very limited time speaking about it because it has to stop.
That's boys.
Okay. But it was good you talked. What did you talk about?
Yeah, I was telling him that I think I just have a lot of trauma when it comes to, like as I'm older, the pieces are connecting more, because now I'm in my 30s. So things I wasn't understanding or didn't have the comprehension of at a young age, now I see more, and so it makes me understand her more, but it also makes me more resentful, like I feel like when she had to give us up, that should have been a reality check as to, okay, now I need to work on me and get myself back together to get my kids back. And it was pretty much the opposite. Like now I don't have that responsibility. So now I'm going to get heavier into drugs, And so I think for me, at least, I can't really talk for my brother, but I still to this day, like suffer with like major abandonment issues. So it triggers me like whether like when I'm dating or, well, not dating, that's like psychotic, but once I'm in a relationship, once they're stuck with me, I'm like, wait, but are you staying with me? Like things like that. And I think, over time, she went through a phase where she did go to rehab. She tried to get better and she was sober, and getting state help and everything, like to find work, to stay in like shelters that were like for sober people to get back on track. And she had a second chance. The state helped her get an apartment. She got a job. And then things were good for a minute. I think that was like 2010. And then by 2012, she was back on the street again.
Wow.
And she never recovered after that. From 2012 until when she passed, she was outside living in the woods.
Oh, wow.
So were you around her in those last few years when, it got really bad? Had you lost touch with her?
No, I was financially there for her, but that's pretty much it. I mean, I got to a point where I just was so fed up with it. And I was realizing that, even me giving her money, it was always like a temporary solution. It was always like Cameron, like, I'm cold. I have no money. I have nothing. Like, can you please help? And it just over time, like, I've been dancing professionally for how long now, and done all these tours. And I don't even have like a legit savings because those last 10 years were pretty much me,
supporting her,
like getting her hotel rooms, getting her an apartment, like I got bad credit now because of that, got her a car. She lost that or sold it. It was just like constant things happening to a point where I finally was like, I just kind of cut her off, and like, if she really needed food and things like that, I would get her. I took care of her phone just so I could always stay in touch with her.
Right.
But towards the end, we were definitely not anywhere near as close as we were leading up to it. I think that last year in 2020, we really didn't talk much. I actually knew she had an issue with meth when I was young. It was always meth, but I wasn't even aware that she was doing heroin until she had already passed away.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Did you resent helping her? So maybe being that crutch in between?
No, because I knew that the money I was giving her, it was to help her get back on her feet. But I knew that it was actually me being an enabler. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
The more that I was giving her money, the more it was giving her money to go and abuse her addiction and her habit. You know what I mean? And though I wanted to tell myself that wasn't happening, it made me feel better to know I was able to help her financially. But realistically, because she was sick, it wasn't going. Eric, can you turn that down? It wasn't going towards anything. Yeah. Sorry, people that are listening, we're in our houses, so there is outside noise. We're not in a studio,
That's right. And you said you have a dog that gets jealous, so your dog might chime in.
Yeah. And then my brother's, I think he was like turning up the TV because he probably doesn't want to hear this.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All good. All good.
But yeah, so, with time, I just started getting more and more resentful and over it, and then, I had like my dad being like, Cameron, you have done enough. If she doesn't want to get better or get help, that is on her at the end of the day. He's more of the tough love type of person. And he was right, but it's just kind of hard. It's not like a friend where you're like, you're a mess, I'm done. It's like, that's my mom, like you have to help your family,
Most definitely.
Yeah, that's an added challenge with people with substance abuse. You want to help them, but you don't want to also be the enabler. And I know there's a lot of people out there that struggle with that. It's really interesting to hear your story and the timeline from when you were 14, which is a very impressionable, sensitive age. So I get that you would have the abandonment issues, but then as an adult to turn around and financially have to support your mom as well, that's got to be really tough. Do you mind telling us what happened when she did pass, or how you found out, or where you were?
Yeah, she was in Seattle where they live, or where they lived. And I am here in LA. And then it was also 2020. So like we were like pretty much on house arrest, like no one was going anywhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I hadn't seen her literally that entire year once. Like the last time I'd seen her was pretty much the time that she passed a year before. What happened was she passed away. I think she overdosed. Her and her boyfriend at the time were living in a tent out in the woods. And I think they were using, and, my mom's a 4'11" tiny woman. Like the fact that she even survived and lived that long, honestly, is crazy to me, because I kind of sadly like saw that day coming for a very long time,
Yeah.
So though it was like very sad, it was also kind of one of those things where you're like, almost relieved to know that she's no longer like suffering. You know what I mean? Like, at least now she can ask for forgiveness and be in heaven and be, you know what I mean? Like, so, but yeah, she was found in the woods pretty much alone, and I think that's the part that is like the most sad, going from being this like prestigious businesswoman that so many dancers in the entire Pacific Northwest like grew up trying to be, or that, she's trained so many working choreographers and dancers that are in LA now. Her legacy is definitely behind, but it just sucks that she didn't know how amazing she was, like she didn't realize that she was still that person,
Right.
And I think, with the using and her being so deep into it, I think she just hit like another level of depression where she knew she couldn't get out.
Right.
And, like you do burn bridges when you use drugs. Like she didn't have any of her best friends anymore. She didn't really have me as much anymore. And, she didn't really have any friends. She had my brother and her boyfriend, and so I think that that's what makes me the most sad, is the fact that someone that amazing, that's how she spent her last seconds, was like outside in the woods overdosing alone,
Wow. We all know you're a dancer. How has that helped you get through the struggles of the loss of your mom, but also overcoming addiction in your life?
It's made my creativity 10 times better. It's made me open my eyes as to like knowing that, like, for example, how do you even say this? Like my world is dance. You know what I mean? Like it's all I've ever known, and it's all I've ever wanted to do. Like I didn't even do good in school because I knew that no matter what I was going to do, it was going to be in dance. Like whether it was being a teacher, a choreographer, a creative, a mentor. Like I was like, I'm opening a studio. I'm going to have my own dance convention. Like I don't need to know science. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like now that I'm older, I'm like, I kind of wish I went back, but 2020 made us all open our eyes a little more. I'm like, should I go get that degree now?
Right.
But I think both me and my brother, we grieve differently, and also an amazing thing you guys didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you is my brother, he was an addict as well. And after she passed away, about 6 months later, he got clean. He actually tomorrow will be 5 months clean.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
Congratulations, Eric. Thank you. He's like, why are you talking about me? And did you ask my permission?
Right.
But yeah, he's 5 months clean now. And he moved here to California. So he's living with me, getting on his feet. And, like I made a promise to my mom a long time ago. Because, he's been using for a long time too. She was like, Eric and you guys are all each other have, and you're both a piece of me. So if I'm gone, you guys need to be there for each other.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
That's the main thing I can remember, because me and my brother were close, but over the years we weren't as close. And we also have a 7-year age gap between us. So, when I was in high school, he was like a toothless, annoying 7-year-old, you know what I mean? And then when he was 14 in high school, I was already at bars, so
right. I was him before. Yeah, I was the young kid. So I get it.
Yeah. So you get it, it's like, your family. So of course you're genetically close, but that age gap that's a huge gap, for a teenage boy and like a young adult,
Right.
And so as we're both getting older, like now Eric, are you 26 or 27? He's 26. Like,
okay,
we're getting closer now because, now we're both adults.
right.
And now that he's clean, like he's learning so much more about himself. And, like now he's really becoming like, like a person with an identity. So he's doing all the things my mom didn't have the strength to do, going to 3 Narcotic Anonymous meetings a day. Like he's very committed. And
that's great.
That is great.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Yes.
That is interesting that you're helping support him. Do you think helping support him has also helped you through the grieving process? I mean, is that something other than, I know you've said dance has helped you, but is that one of the other things that you think has helped you through grief?
Yeah. I mean, we're close, but we're not like, we don't like really like sit and like talk about things that make us uncomfortable,
Right.
It's hard to talk about those things. I get it. Our family was shut down too.
Yeah.
So we never really talked about things that really mattered.
Like on her birthday, we didn't even acknowledge it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we live in the same house. I mean, it was just for us, it's kind of like what are we celebrating? Like she's not alive,
Yeah, right. I get it.
Is there something you do outside of dance that also just helps you cope with all these struggles that you've had to face in life?
Well, in 2020, that would be going out for a drink.
Yeah.
To be honest, I have a very addictive personality too. So does my brother. It's honestly our whole family. Like, I went through phases where I numbed myself using too, nothing to that degree, but like,
right.
weed and alcohol, and I love a good drink to numb myself, and so that's actually something I'm working on too, is like, I think I was having a hard time grieving, and I'm also someone that holds everything in. So like I really hit breaking points.
Yeah.
And when I drink, it numbs me. So I would literally abuse it to not feel things. But then I would get so drunk that I would start like lashing out and, like freaking out of nowhere. Like, where did this bipolarness come from? You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
It's something I'm learning to control. I'm going to therapy or, doing therapy.
Oh, that's good.
That's great.
I read a lot of self-healing books, and of course I have my dance, like we already discussed. Having Eric here has been helpful, because it's like, we don't talk about it, but we both need each other,
Yeah.
Right.
You're each other's crutch. You're there, but you're not really.
We're each other's crutch that like occasionally kick it over,
Right.
You don't have to verbalize it.
It's just there.
Sibling rivalry. Yes.
Yeah. And, even for me, like my New Year's resolution, I hate New Year's resolutions because let's be real, like we're like New Year, new me. And then like 3 weeks later, we forgot and we're like back to our old habits.
Yes.
But
New Year, new me.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, I guess I'm also in a transitional period, especially with it being the anniversary of her passing.
Yeah.
And, I realized during this time, like I wasn't really healing because I was grieving by also abusing substance, and so I don't want to be that way. And I think that for me, my issue is not having a drink. It's hard liquor. Because if I drink like whiskey or vodka, like I just want to keep going.
Okay.
If I have a glass of wine, I'm good. Like I'm ready for bed, you know?
Yep.
So my New Year's resolution's not even to just like stop drinking as a whole, but like to not drink hard liquor.
There you go.
And to just be better at like making commitments and plans and sticking with them, like building new habits rather than being like, making it a habit to like break the new habit I'm trying to gain, you know?
Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that. New daily habits. That's one of the things I like working on every year. I try to add something new, and I try to go, did I do this, and this today? You know?
Yeah. Eating better, all of it.
Yep.
Like, I just think there's so much we can do to just like stimulate ourselves in ways that are going to make us mentally healthier. And clearly I'm not like mentally my healthiest. So physical neglect is not okay during this time, because that's definitely going to make my mind and my willpower a lot stronger. Is, you know, reading these books, eating better, having a glass of wine here and there, but not like, you know, going out and drinking every single night, you know?
Right. Exactly.
And being around people that understand that I'm trying to work on being a better version of myself, not being around people that help me move back towards my old habits. Like, you know, like I'm kind of in a place now where I'm looking at what is healthy for me, who's healthy for me, what's triggering for me, what people I know how to be around and go bowling and go to the movies, or if I don't know how to do anything with them other than drink, like these are toxins and people that I don't need in my life, because it's not going to help me move in the direction I'm trying to gain and get to.
Most definitely. My best friend actually pushed me towards therapy. Was there somebody who pushed you towards therapy, or was it the books that helped push you towards that therapy?
You know, choreographer Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
Well, he lost his mom a couple years before I lost mine. So, you know, he had to go through the whole thing that I just started going through. So when he found out my mom passed away, he reached out to me and was like, hey, Cam, like, you know, I went through the same thing, and it never gets easier. You just learn to live with it better. And, you know, people right now, they're going to be like, oh my God, Cameron, if you need anything, I'm here. But the sad thing is, people, they move on.
Yeah.
And though you might not have moved on, that's going to be harder for you, because you're going to feel alone, or you're going to feel like you're constantly bringing things up that people have moved on past. And so he was like, what helped me a lot with that, because that is hard, is, you know, seeking therapy. So he told me about, you know, some apps for it at the time, and then like some meditation apps and things like that. And I think once I started doing the online therapy, they started recommending books and recommending things I can do on the outside to make myself feel better, and, you know, writing and all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, I need to be more consistent with it. Like I was saying, going into the new year, consistency is the goal. Yeah, I think that's the main thing, is just being consistent with all of that, because I do get really busy with my career. And so it allows me to put everything on the back burner. And I think I need to find better balance within, you know, making sure I'm making time, not just for my coin, that's the Taurus in me, but making time to really take better care of myself, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know you mentioned that you get visits from your mom as well.
Yeah.
And some of them are haunting. Can you explain that to us?
Well, okay, funny story. She used to always tell me and my brother, like, if we were disrespectful, she would be like, you know what? One day when I'm gone, you guys are going to regret how you treat me, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to haunt the crap out of you guys. And she would say it as a joke. But like, I remember one time I was, well, a few times things have happened where, you know, I run a mentorship program, and I really kind of go by the things my mom taught me, or, you know, like my mentors like Trisha and Andre and everybody. And I was giving a speech, and we were at West Coast Dance. It's like this studio down the street in North Hollywood, but it has these like really heavy metal doors. Okay. Now I'm teaching in this room, and I'm sitting in the middle, and all my students are sitting around, and I'm just giving them guidance. And I'm talking about my mom. And I was like, you know, my mom, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be as intense, and I wouldn't be such a disciplinarian when it comes to the way I teach you guys. But of course, when your mom is your mentor, she's not only a stage mom, she's your teacher. So she's on, you know, that ass all the time. I don't know. Am I allowed to cuss? Do we edit that?
You're fine.
Okay. I'm like, are adults watching or listening? But, you know, so we're sitting there, and I'm talking about that. And literally the door, this metal door, just creaks. It just cracks open.
What?
And everyone in the room is like, wait, what? Because no one was on the outside to open it.
That's
And
great.
I was like, well, there she goes, haunting me.
Yep.
You know, and I don't know, like there's just moments like, you know, you can just feel them, you know, like,
Yeah.
like you can just feel it. Like I have some of her ashes here and I have like a whole corner that's really spiritual where I have candles and all kinds of stuff. Like, what's that stuff called that I like put all over the house? Oh, sage.
Sage.
Oh yeah, sage.
You know,
Yep.
like
yep.
I have like that whole corner that's like all those things. And, you know, so I feel like part of her is always in the house, you know?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So it doesn't feel, you know, like even if my brother and my dog are like not in the house, like I still feel like someone's in it with me.
Right.
I don't feel alone.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And I guess it's comforting, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. So what you're saying isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
She hasn't spooked you or yelled at you, has she? Other than that one
No.
time with the metal door.
The lights did flicker in the same room once. And it was actually on the day that was the anniversary of her passing when I was there teaching.
There you go.
I'll see.
And the day before that, her wedding song that she had with my dad, which was like a Luther Vandross song, like literally, why is this playing in Walgreens? You know, like
Right.
Amazing.
why is this song from 1986 playing in Walgreens?
Because your mom is in control. They're playing it for you to hear.
Yes.
Yeah. And I remember like I was going in there on the way to a rehearsal and I came back out to my friend's car and I was like, wait, like, you know, like, why is the song playing in Walgreens? Like, that doesn't play there. Like, you know,
Right.
like usually
Yeah.
it's like a Katy Perry song or you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Dua Lipa or something. But like Luther Vandross is playing in Walgreens at 9 p.m. at night. Like,
You're right.
So knowing that you feel her presence, do you speak her name or speak to her?
no, it's weird. I could feel these things, but I'm really bad at like praying. I'm really bad at like talking to, you know, like, I don't know. I'm really bad at stuff like that. Like, I feel like I'm talking to myself, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, I know there's a higher power and I know that her presence is there,
Mhm.
but like, I feel it, but I don't know how to like connect to it. I don't know how to engage with it, you know?
It's a hard thing to do because it took me a while to actually pray and actually talk to both my parents.
Yeah. It's a practice. Like you have to like,
Yes.
yeah.
I talk to them every day. So, I mean, I wear my mom's wedding band right here on me. So that's her presence with me every day.
Yeah.
So I get that.
And the thing too, I think if Cameron does start to talk to her, I think she's going to do more light flickering and she's going to answer you. So you have to be ready.
You know, I feel like I feel her inside of myself more than I ever did, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
I say and do things and all I can hear is her.
Yeah.
And it feels like I don't know how to explain it, but I just like, I never felt that way or thought that way when she was alive, but now I feel her inside of me more than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's her coming out of you. You're sharing her spirit with everybody else.
Yes, literally that. Yes.
In a lot of ways, now that she's transitioned over, you can be closer to her than when she was here in the physical world going through her substance abuse. It's like you're forming a different type of relationship with her now.
I'm 100% more close and connected to her now than I was when she was alive.
Yep. I totally get that.
I love that.
Have you had any dreams about her? Has she shown
Yeah.
up in any dreams?
Oh yeah. And the thing is, anytime I like have a dream where she's in it, because the thing is, she has such a distinct voice and laugh that you just like, you can't hear it anywhere else, you know? And so
Okay.
Yeah.
when I like and sometimes I'll just have like random dreams where she'll say things like, you know, you need to make sure you're taking care of your brother or, you know, like things like that. But the thing is, I never wake up feeling better. I wake up and have a horrible day every single time.
Oh,
Like it makes me, I don't know, like it triggers me. It doesn't, I don't know.
It's a nervous thing. You're like, mom's watching me. What is kind of
Yeah.
thing?
It's just like, or it's just like, I feel like she's there and then I wake up and then it just reminds me that she's not,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's weird. Like last year, I feel weird saying last year because tomorrow is a new year. So I don't know how that works anymore.
yeah.
So last year, as in not this year, you know,
Yeah.
not 2021, but last year in 2020, when she first passed, I was so like numb. And I also was still so like angry at her, you know,
Yeah.
like I was
Yeah.
mad. Like I was
Yeah.
like, you left and now I have to live with this, you know?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
I didn't really react. Like I was very numb. If anything, I was more so like, is Eric going to be okay? Like my first thing was not, how am I doing? Am I going to be okay? It was like, now I need to get my brother off the street. Now I need to make sure he gets clean and sober. Cause I was like, I'm not going to have another death in my family due to drugs. Like I refuse, you know? And so I didn't make time for myself to feel or take it in. And I was so numb. I didn't start really getting depressed over her death until like maybe like 4 months ago.
Wow. Yeah.
It's getting harder now than it was when she passed.
Yeah, it takes time. I mean, with my dad passing away without like, we didn't know. I'm still grieving right now. It's just now starting to hit me.
Yeah.
And that was in 2019.
Yeah.
So I get where you're coming from, where it's gonna take, it takes time to get through that whole grieving period.
Because there's so many firsts, you know what I mean? Like this is the first, it'll be like the first time I've heard this song and the song makes me think of my mom, or this is the first time I've watched this movie that I used to laugh and love watching with her. You know, there's so many firsts.
All the firsts.
My first time having spaghetti and thinking of her spaghetti, you know, it's like, there's just always something you know, even with dance, like she was my teacher with like jazz, ballet and, you know, lyrical. And now I do more like industry, like hip hop and jazz funk type stuff. So, you know, randomly I'll be like, okay, I want to tap back into my roots because that is what she gave me, you know?
Right.
And so I taught like a contemporary lyrical dance, you know, like a month ago. And it just like hit me so hard because that movement I got from her, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm honestly continuing her legacy. I'm living through her and I'm giving to the community what her purpose was to give me, for me to have a purpose to give to them, you know?
That's great.
Well, it's interesting that you had dreams about her that usually people wake up feeling better, but I'm fascinated. Did any of those, it seems like you've had a lot of dreams. Did any of them feel like when you dreamt that you're like, oh my gosh, this is really her. It's a visitation.
Yeah. I mean, that feels different though. That feels different than when it's like a dream where like you're at a certain place and you're hanging out, like, you know, like,
right.
Like some are like a fantasy and some are like more like a, no, this is you talking to me, you know?
Right.
Like if it's one where it's like her talking to me, I feel better.
Okay.
But when it's a dream where we're like, you know, in the dance studio and she's not on drugs, and then I wake up and remember that that's how her last days were spent, I'm pissed.
Right. Well, are there any of those visitation dreams, any of them stand out that you could tell us about?
You know, honestly, they don't feel like dreams where you can like remember them. It's like a moment that just like passes. I don't know how to explain it.
But you knew she was there and that made you feel better.
Yeah. Like I know we had a talk and then, but it's gone, you know? Right. But I know it happened.
She was talking to your higher self. So somewhere in your subconscious, you know what she said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's been times where like I felt her be like voices in my head that are hers, you know, being like, you had no control over what happened to me. That's not your fault. That you need to stop beating yourself up. Things like that.
That's really her.
Yeah, totally. And there's things I felt where I feel like I'm kind of giving up, where I'm like, oh, you know what? Like it. And I'm just going to go drink and I'm not going to go to the studio today. I don't want to do this. I don't want to put on this show that I already started choreographing. I don't want to do this job. And, you know, it'll be things where I just feel her being like, now you need to live that purpose more than ever. Turn all of these feelings that you have towards me or towards the situation and make it like, do the opposite of what I did. You know, you have the power, you right now have the power to either go down the same route that I went or to make something of yourself. So do not make the same mistakes I made.
Yeah, you are very talented. So do not ever give up on that. You are so talented. And I love watching you dance. And I love hearing you giving stories to other dancers. You're an amazing person. So don't ever stop doing this.
Thank you, love.
This is your path, and your mom wanted you to stay on this path.
Yeah.
Don't ever give up. We're here for you as well. I know it's just words, but you're always connected with me.
Yeah. And it's nice to know there's other people that have the same grieving, you know, because people like you know, like, you know what I'm talking about when I say that people move on, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
We've all here have lost a parent, or both. So we get where you're going through, what you're going through. We don't know exactly what you're going through because no one will.
Everyone's unique.
Yeah. I love that you guys are doing this. Like, I feel like this this must help you grieve because you're bringing light to other people who are going through things that you guys have gone through yourselves, you know?
Right.
Exactly. That's one reason why I did this podcast, because of my dad, because I hadn't grieved yet. And this gave me my first step to start grieving. And I want to help other people if they're still not able to grieve yet. That one little thing that we might say will help them start that healing process.
Absolutely.
And it is a process that continues. I mean, you said it yourself, Cameron, it doesn't go away. It's finding that new relationship with the person you lost. And it's finding a way to keep yourself motivated from day to day with activities and how you want to live your life. And it does make you look at life differently.
Yeah. And, that's another thing too, is the connection that I do feel with her is the person that she was when I was little, not the person she was when she passed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because that's the person I knew. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I think that's another thing I was trying to say about me and my brother is we have such different relationships with her, like
Right.
theirs was using and, and the thing is like, that's her baby. I got a little more tough love because I was the older one, you know what I mean? And like, he's the baby. So like, like a lot of the habits and things he's learning are literally from me, even at 26 years old, because my mom would literally cut his pancakes till he was 18 years old. You know what I mean? So he knows a different side to her and they had such a special bond that me and her didn't have. We just had a different one. Mine was with dance and was with her, who was this like strong boss woman. You know what I mean?
Right.
Her and Eric became a lot more codependent on each other towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that codependency and she didn't have that with me.
Wow.
So it's really interesting that you've been able to help your brother who's family with his substance abuse problem. And you definitely have the experience of coaching and helping other people. What would you say to other people who are listening that are dealing with substance abuse, either themselves or their own loved ones?
Honestly, do not enable them by giving them money. I think that that's something for sure that triggers me, is knowing that I didn't help when I thought I was. And if you're someone who uses and people cut you off, don't be mad at them. They're actually doing that because they genuinely do love you. Like, I guess you call it tough love. You know what I mean? Like, if you need to hit rock bottom, you need to do that by yourself. Because if people are enabling or helping you, you never fully hit that rock bottom. You need to literally have no one to call, no one to help you. You need to be at a point where literally you have to figure it out for yourself,
Yeah, it's up to that one person to make that decision.
Yeah. Oh, funny. It's not funny, but interesting story is with my brother. When my mom passed, he was grieving, of course, too, but we pulled the plug with my mom. And that same day, I was like forcing him to get into rehab, like the same day. Like literally, we were staying at a hotel like 2 blocks away from the hospital. And I was like, you need to stop using right now, get yourself super sick, and then we'll take you to the hospital. If we take you to the ER, they'll have no choice but to help find you a bed, And so we had this whole plan. But the thing is, he wasn't ready. We were pretty much telling him, this is what you're going to do. And, in that moment, like literally, I was chasing him all over the hospital. He was literally running away from me in a parking lot, ran into the woods away from me. Like, he was not ready and I was trying to force it. And then I just gave up. I was like, you know what? Like, it. Like, I'm not going to do this, because we got him into the rehab. He left the next morning. So I was pissed. I was like, I'm done helping you. You're cut off. You're done. Like, I was just mad. And then 6-7 months later, I'm visiting Seattle because we were there for her funeral, because we didn't have it when she first passed away. When we had the life celebration with family and everything, and we buried her, Eric, that day that we buried her, was like, I'm not going to use anymore. And he got super sick, and I took him to the hospital. I was there with him for like over 20 hours of him just like laying there in his own vomit, so uncomfortable and sick. It was like scary to watch. But the thing is, the difference was he was there because he wanted to be there, not because I forced him there. So I waited those 8 months. I allowed him to grieve the way he needed to, and to honestly probably get more strung out on drugs, because that was how he dealt with it. But I think he hit that rock bottom on his own to be like, look, Cam, now I need your help because I'm ready to make the step because I want to do it.
Yeah, most definitely. And we want to also share with our listeners that there is help out there if you are dealing with substance abuse. So please reach out to a friend, a loved one, or a professional You can also call the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration helpline at 1-800-662-HELP, or visit their website at samhsa.gov to find a treatment location near you. And everything is confidential, free, and they're open 24/7. I help people, if you need that help, you can find it.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Cameron. Before we sign off, is there anything else you feel you would like to share with our listeners or talk about that we didn't touch on?
I think I just shared an entire book. But no, I think the last thing I said was a good way to end it.
Awesome.
Well, thank you again for sharing just a close personal story with us and our listeners.
Of course.
I love ya.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cameron.
Love ya.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. That's it for today. Thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you. So email us at trisha.misty.tm@gmail.com.
Our podcast, Surviving Death and Dying, is available worldwide on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeart, Amazon Audible, Listen Note, Facebook, YouTube, and more.
You can also go to our website, survivingdeathanddying.com, where we have links to the books we talk about. So please like, share, subscribe, and follow.
We did it again. We survived death and dying. Another episode. Because we believe life and love never dies.